7 seconds. That's all it took for Todd Duffee to make history. One clean punch, then another that echoed across the canvas. Tim Haig's head bounced off the mat like a basketball. The crowd gasped. Joe Rogan's voice cracked. Dana White said, "This guy is the future. 6'3", 260 pounds, carved like a comic book villain, but fast. Unbelievably fast. He didn't just win fights, he erased people. But just 3 fights later, Todd Duffee was gone. Knocked out, kicked from the UFC, blacklisted. The same man who exploded into the heavyweight division like a bomb vanished. And it wasn't because he was injured. It wasn't because he...
Fastest, strongest, biggest heavyweights I've ever rolled with. Anybody who's ever trained with Todd knew he was the real deal. It just came to light, within the past year. People saw his potential. You didn't get to see much of him.
He got old. He blew it. This is the story of Todd Duffee, a man physically built to destroy, but in the end, destroyed himself. Because the scariest thing Todd ever faced wasn't Alistair Overeem. It wasn't Frank Mir. It wasn't even his long list of injuries. It was Todd Duffee. To understand how someone born to dominate became his own worst enemy, we need to go back when Todd looked truly unstoppable. Todd was built like a warrior, born in Evansville, Indiana, raised in a small Illinois town. His dad was a coal miner, his mum was a nurse. Nobody in his family fought. But Todd, he was just different. Bigger, faster, stronger, football, basketball, baseball, track. He even tried bull riding just to test him.
I've been hearing some great things about this young man. Kid is powerful, explosive, and huge.
But it wasn't until a football injury in college that things started to change. The body that made him a star, now it was slowing him down. He moved to Atlanta, tried boxing. Then one day, he saw a UFC fight on TV. That was it. He dropped out of college, packed his bags, and started fighting full-time. And when coaches saw him, they couldn't believe it. A 6'3", 260-pound heavyweight, moving like a welterweight, explosive, quick, athletic. He looked like a character from a movie. Trainers said he was the most gifted athlete they'd ever seen. And it wasn't just how he looked. He was aggressive. He was hungry. When he hit people, they stayed down. He went 5-0, 4 first-round knockouts, 1 second round. He KO'd a UFC and Pride veteran. Another guy went down in 15 seconds. Promoters started comparing him to Brock Lesnar, but younger, leaner, and even more violent. The UFC was about to unleash a monster. UFC 102, Portland, Oregon. Todd Duffee versus Tim Haig. The bell rang. Duffee stepped forward. Stiff jab. Boom. Haig's brain shut off. It wasn't a punch you train for, it was a punch you hope you survive. 7 seconds, fastest knockout in UFC heavyweight history. Joe Rogan was speechless. Dana White was all in. The heavyweight division had a new killer, and Duffee made it even scarier. He looked into the camera, flexed, screamed. "That was an appetizer. I want to eat now, Dana. Let me eat." That line made headlines. The knockout made history. Just like that, Todd Duffee became a viral star. His next fight, Mike Russo. A veteran, tough chin, endless gas tank. Duffee didn't care. For 2 rounds, he beat Russo like it was a training drill. Clean jabs, explosive combos, perfect form. It was like watching a lion play with its food. Then in round 3, it happened. Out of nowhere, right hand, hammer fist, lights out. Duffee had dominated for 12 minutes, then got knocked out in 5 seconds. But nobody blamed him. They called it a fluke. He was young. Still the future. Just a lesson learned. Dana White still believed in him. The fans still had his back. Todd Duffee wasn't just strong, he was terrifying. He had knockout of the night power every single time he walked in the cage. But that same hunger, that confidence, it started to twist. Because perfection can mess with your head. After that loss, something changed. Not in his body, he was still a beast. But his mindset, different. He stopped being the destroyer. He became the problem. Skipping training, arguing with coaches, ignoring game plans. He went from hungry to hard-headed, from next champ to bad attitude. Then the injuries started. Torn 1,150, back issues, fight cancellations. But the thing that really broke him, it wasn't a punch. It was a question. He asked the UFC to help cover surgery for his injured knee. And just like that, they cut him. No call, no press release, just gone. 1 week you're the headline. Next week, you're a ghost. This wasn't just any fighter losing a job. This was the UFC tossing out a future champion through the back door. Why? Depends on who you ask. Some say Dana hated his ego. Others say the UFC didn't want to set a precedent. Maybe he just talked too much, too early. He had criticized fighter pay, told the media he needed a second job just to train. He pulled back the curtain and paid for it. Dana later admitted it. They didn't like his tone. It wasn't about talent anymore. It was about trust. and Todd burned bridges before he ever crossed them. This should have been his comeback story, his underdog arc, his turning point. Instead, it was the beginning of the end. He never got another shot. Not then. The man who once screamed, "Let me eat," was now broke, bitter, and starving. That's when the real destruction began. Out of the UFC, injured, stuck, Todd was desperate for a chance to prove himself. So when Dream offered him a fight, he jumped at it. But it wasn't just any fight. It was Alistair Overeem, K1 Grand Prix champion, Pride veteran, a roided-up Dutch tank, and Todd? He had 6 days to prepare. Most fighters wouldn't take that fight with 6 weeks' notice. But Todd said yes. He wanted to show the world he wasn't scared. He ran at Overeem like a madman, threw wild punches, no defense, no plan, then came a brutal knee to the face. Boom, 19 seconds, fight over, worst knockout of his career. Still, he didn't stop. He told reporters that with a full camp, he would have crushed Overeem. He even helped Overeem train for Brock Lesnar later on. But this wasn't humility, it was denial. Instead of stepping back, regrouping, and learning, Todd just kept crashing into walls, one bad decision after another. He bounced around the world. Dream, Super Fight League, Jungle Fight, Brazil, India, anywhere. At SFL, he had a huge 34-second KO win over Neil Grove. For a moment, it felt like maybe he was back. But then it happened again. Injuries, attitude issues, fights falling apart. He was supposed to face Jeff Monson. It didn't happen. Another fight? Cancelled. He just couldn't hold it together. Promoters started noticing every time there was momentum, he'd blow it. He thought hitting harder would fix everything, but you can't punch your way through bad decisions. Then, in 2012, the UFC gave him another chance. He came back at UFC 155 to fight Phil DeFries. He was still recovering from a respiratory infection, not 100%. But when the cage door shut, the old Todd Duffee showed up. First round, pure violence. TKO in 2 minutes, bonus money. The crowd erupted. Joe Rogan lost it. Dana gave him knockout of the night. It felt like a new beginning. Maybe he had matured, maybe he was finally ready, but he wasn't. That same camp, he had been injured again. After the fight, things got worse. He was diagnosed with Parsonage-Turner syndrome, a rare nerve condition, pain, weakness, numbness, delayed healing. Doctors told him, "You won't fight again for 2 years." Most fighters would have retired, but not Todd. He fought back, rehabbed, rebuilt. In 2014, he returned at UFC 181, knocked out Anthony Hamilton in 33 seconds. Another first-round finish. The Duffee bomb was back. Then came Frank Mir, a legend, a former champion. Todd landed early, rocked Mir. But he got greedy. He chased the knockout, got clipped. KO loss, 1 minute, fight over. Same story, different night. Then came silence, years of it, injuries, shoulder surgeries, a CL tear, a MRSA infection, 2 more surgeries, setback after setback. Still, he never gave up. He moved to Las Vegas, trained at the UFC Performance Institute, did everything right. In 2019, after 4 years, he came back again, fought Jeff Hughes. It ended in the first round by accidental eye poke. No contest, another comeback ruined. Then in 2023, he fought for the KSW heavyweight title, faced Phil DeFries again, lost in the first round. In 2024, he tried bare-knuckle boxing. Ben Rothwell crushed him in 43 seconds. Duffee couldn't catch a break. Same pattern again and again. Start strong, show flashes of greatness, then crash. That's when people finally accepted the truth. By 2025, Todd Duffee wasn't the future of the heavyweight division anymore. He was just a name people barely remembered, a footnote in the careers of legends like Frank Mir. Not because he didn't have the tools, but because he never figured out how to use them. Not for long. He was a walking highlight reel, until someone hit him back. Every comeback felt like this might be the one, but it always ended the same way. His body broke, his timing faded, his opponents evolved, but Todd never did. This wasn't bad luck. This wasn't haters. This was a man who had the physical gifts of a world champion, but not the mindset to become one. He didn't grow, he didn't listen, he didn't adapt. He just kept chasing knockouts and blowing up every chance he got. As of 2025, Todd Duffee is 39, not that old for a heavyweight, but his record only 14 pro MMA fights, 9 wins, 4 losses, 1 no contest, all 9 wins by knockout, all 4 losses also by knockout. He either destroyed or got destroyed. No decisions, no submissions, no in-betweens. He was all or nothing, and in the end, nothing won. You look at him now, 240 pounds of muscle, clean jawline, movie star looks. And you ask yourself, how did this guy not become a superstar? He was built to be the scariest man alive. Instead, he became a walking what-if. Todd Duffee is what happens when talent meets bad timing, when potential runs into pride, when the destroyer becomes the destruction. Nobody ever doubted his power. Nobody ever questioned his talent. But greatness isn't what you're born with. It's what you do with it. Todd lit the fuse. and stood too close to the blast, because sometimes being a freak of nature isn't enough to escape your own nature. Escape